Yo, what is going on everybody? It's Juan Solo here with ASQD Gaming and welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in today for some more Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the massive changes coming to the Ghost Recon Breakpoint open beta from player feedback from the closed beta that actually happened a couple of weeks ago. And there was an insane amount of player feedback from the closed beta, and the developers took that all into account and did make a lot of adjustments for the open beta that is actually releasing tomorrow. For those of you guys that do not know, it's probably going to go live very early in the morning Eastern time. And I know this information has actually been out for several days, but I wanted to give you guys this information directly prior to the open beta so you guys can kind of look out for these changes, because one of the biggest things I noticed with the closed beta, and the only term that I could actually kind of tie to it, was it felt clunky. The way the movement was, the way the animations were, the way your player started running and stopped running and stuff like that. And that's actually what you guys are going to be seeing in this video clip here. This is one of the first changes that the developers actually made based on community feedback, and it basically made for enhanced responsiveness for the main character so that the controls felt smoother and faster acceleration and stops of the main character, so it resulted in a decreased feeling of inertia. And it is clear as day in these two videos here that you can see side by side that your character does stop a lot more abruptly, which when you're in certain situations, that's going to be huge, as well as there's going to be faster weapon swaps for increased responsiveness when changing weapons, as you guys can see here. And this was another thing that I noticed actually during the closed beta, was it just felt like it took a very long time to kind of switch between your weapons, especially when you compare it to Ghost Recon Wildlands. Everything in Ghost Recon Wildlands, when it came to switching your weapons, the character inertia, stuff like that, felt very responsive, and the devs obviously took that into account by listening to player feedback from the closed beta to the open beta, as well as there's going to be a faster stance changes to adapt more quickly to the situation, as you guys can see here. And this is something that actually happened to me several times when I was trying to go prone to avoid the Azrael drones. It just felt like it wasn't responsive, and obviously with the changes they've made, as you guys can see here in this video clip, that's going to be much faster. It's going to feel much more responsive when it comes to actually changing your player stance in the game. So with all of those changes, there's also going to be faster interactions with chests to loot items, as well as less paralysis time after being injured, which will allow you to kind of get back the controls of your character after an injury, as well as there's going to be faster entry and exit from vehicles, and you'll also be able to issue a cancellation of an ongoing action. So for instance, if you're trying to open a chest and there's a guard coming around the corner, you can actually cancel that animation of opening the chest. You can also have the ability to cancel car entries by moving the stick away from the interaction, and faster cancellation of intel gathering interactions as well. And these are all things that are very situational, but they will definitely be noticed when you're playing the open beta, because for instance, if you're in a base and you're trying to go through there and loot stuff and kind of go in through there undetected, and there's a random guard that comes around the corner, in the actual closed beta you were stuck in that animation, you really couldn't do anything about it. But with the open beta, you're going to be able to cancel all of those animations, and it's just going to give you a little bit more freedom of choice when it comes to those animations in the game. And now moving on to probably one of the biggest complaints that I saw from the animation department in Ghost Recon Breakpoint's closed beta, and that was the running animation. So all the way since the reveal back in May, I've seen countless people complaining about the running animation, and they listened to that player feedback and they modified the running animation of the main character to make it so that it was more natural. And as you guys can see here in this video clip, it is so noticeable. You can kind of see where it looks more natural, kind of swaying side to side. The old animation literally looked like there was very little movement from the waist down. It was pretty stagnant, but up top it was pretty much just swinging his arms left and right. You can see over there on the right that it looks much more natural, similar to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which the amount of time that you actually do spend sprinting in this game, it did get very annoying to look at very quickly, and I'm really happy to see that change being made. And just because we're only showcasing the running animation here, the walking and rushing animation also was adjusted so that you're going to be noticing that while you're playing, as well as there's going to be better terrain analysis when running to more accurately display the correct animation. For instance, if you're going up slopes or down slopes that aren't too steep that you're going to fall, the animations are going to look much more crisp on different terrains. And now moving on to some other things that they changed. So with the camera angles, there's going to be better camera angles for shooting from a vehicle, and the devs went on to say that they adjusted the camera framing from passenger seats so that it's been improved for better shooting opportunities from the passenger seat, as well as there was a bunch of co-op replication improvements. So a lot of people that I saw talking about this was they were playing in a co-op game, and what one player was seeing was completely different from what another player was seeing, and the developers kind of went back to the drawing board and changed a few things here. So there's going to be a lot of fixes for various replication issues while playing the cooperative mode, and this will ensure more coherent visuals to prevent unintended behavior like sliding, teleportation, and incorrect positioning from player to player, as well as they fixed the online replication of NPCs, because a lot of times some NPCs were not there for certain players depending on who you were playing with, and that has also been adjusted. And now moving on to some of the vehicle changes they made, they actually adjusted the handbrake and drifting behavior of the vehicles in the game, and by doing this they improved the handbrake behavior on vehicles, which allows the player to better handle and control their particular vehicle while drifting. And yes, you guys did hear me correctly there. We're going to be drifting our cars around in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And this is one thing I noticed when I was playing the closed beta. It all depended on what terrain you were on and what kind of weather you were actually in while you were driving those vehicles. Because I noticed if you were kind of driving around on dirt roads and stuff like that and it was raining, your vehicle handled pretty bad. And that makes sense because you're slip sliding around in the mud and stuff like that. But if you were on dry pavement or even dry dirt, the vehicle seemed to handle pretty well. Definitely a big improvement from Ghost Recon Wildlands. So they also made it that traveling with helicopters is going to be more accessible. So there's going to be more helicopters distributed across the map. So it's going to give you easier access to the open world, as well as the Sparrow helicopter is now going to be accessible by default at any bivouac right away. And there's going to be more helipad locations available throughout the open world, as well as all helicopters are now shown at the Era 1 shop menu without having to unlock them in the skill tree, because that was one of the last skills that you were actually able to unlock. It was all the way up at the top of the skill tree. You had to spend quite a few points to actually gain access to all of the helicopters in the game, and they adjusted that, so now you're actually going to be able to buy those straight from the shop right away, depending on how much skill credits you actually have on your character. So now moving on to some of the other things here, we have the wide range difficulties that they actually did some adjustments with. So the regular difficulty level has been turned down a little bit to prevent difficulty peaks, as well as the arcade difficulty level has been adjusted to be easier. And this is something that I know a lot of you guys that play Ghost Recon a lot are not really going to have any part in. You guys are going to be playing on the higher difficulty settings anyways, but for those people that are brand new to the franchise, this is obviously going to be more of an entry level difficulty for those people. But it is nice to know that this game is going to be accessible by all tiers of players. And then also, with that being said, we have more realistic experiences in extreme difficulty, which is kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum. And some of the things that they changed in here is with the red lights on the minimap that indicate enemy presence have been removed to provide increased immersion and challenges. And now moving on to some of the UI and stuff that they've actually changed in Ghost Recon Breakpoint for the open beta. The actual shop in Era 1 was only accessible if you were actually in Era 1, and they changed that you can actually access that shop from any bivouac in the open world, which is going to be pretty convenient. You're not necessarily going to have to fast travel back to the main HQ on the island just to be able to do some shopping. You're going to be able to do that from any bivouac in the open world. And last but not least, here are a few odds and ends here. There was a couple of fixes with the progression balancing with the game, as well as some of the challenges, some of the saves and stuff like that with the bugs that people were having of not being able to save their game. And all platforms got a huge improvement when it came to the graphic detail of objects and level of detail to create a better visual experience. So I'm really looking forward to getting in and checking out how much better the game looks. And one real quick thing that I kind of wanted to touch on before I end the video here, if we go back to one of those videos that kind of showed like the old animations to the new animations, the one visual thing that I noticed is you notice that the old ones are very washed out with a lot of bright white colors. And this was something that I saw pop up a number of times in people's videos and articles and forums and stuff like that, is the game felt too bright. It felt too washed out with the sun. And you notice by the old animations to the new animations, it looks a lot less bright. It looks more along the lines of what it really should look like. A little bit more contrast, a lot less washed out. And I'm really excited to see how this is actually going to play out with different environments in the game. But that is pretty much going to do it for the video, guys. I didn't want to rattle on too long, but there was an insane amount of content to talk about with the changes coming for the open beta. But if you guys enjoyed this video, you guys learned something, you guys are excited for the open beta launching tomorrow, make sure to drop a like on the video and also subscribe if you are new to stay up to date on the latest information surrounding Ghost Recon Breakpoint on the channel moving forward. But that is all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.